Pretentious Film Majors. I'm Yaron Zilberman, the director of A Late Quartet.
I am Devin Southard of the Pretentious Film Majors, sitting here with Yaron Zilberman, the director of A Late Quartet. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks for accepting. So, you not only directed the movie, you also co-wrote it with Seth Grossman. Yes. What was the inspiration for the film? Where did that come from?
So I wanted to tell a story about a family dynamic. Sounds reasonable, right? Yeah, that's not too bad. And I love chamber music since my early, or mid-teens rather, and especially the dynamic between four like-minded musicians and how they interact. And it's like a very intense conversation musically, but also the way they live. They usually travel 7 months a year together, same hotel room, same lifestyle, intense rehearsal. So after a while, and it takes a minimum of 10 years to develop a sound that you can really go out there and say, that's my sound. 10 years. So that's the beginning. So I thought that intensity plus family would be, a great way to explore family dynamic in a fresh way.
So it sounds like you actually did a bit of research into what the life of a classical musician is. It takes 10 years. What else did you learn about that world? Because it really is a different world entirely, in a sense. So what else did you research into it?
Yeah, it's first of all, it's about 25 years of research since I started to listen to this music. But I think that musicians are very interesting people in the sense that it's sort of a combination of Olympian athlete, because you need to know how to play the instrument in a so regimented, it's like a daily practice. If they say if you're not practicing one day, it takes you a week to come back, and if you don't practice for a week, it's like a month, and a month is like a year, and more than that, you might as well drop the whole thing. So it's really like an Olympian athlete with the artistic element, the spiritual element with it. So you're like a very interesting combination of an artist and an athlete, and that calls for a very particular personality. So they're very, very serious on one hand, and there's some, and very emotional, and also all other peculiar stuff. You need to know these people. They're like really a bit on the cuckoo side. Very, very funny, hilarious. Yeah, but I studied, the sort of the histories of many string quartets. So I can tell you like an anecdote. One of the famous string quartets, international string quartets, they did not speak to each other. They used to travel, play, but everything was with faxes. They used to send faxes of like the fingering and how to do that, and then they would meet and play this amazing music and then depart. One quartet had one woman and three men in the quartet, in the late quartet. She was married to each one of them. So it's like that kind of stuff. You see, they're going like really wild because they live in some kind of a bubble, incredible bubble. A bubble that produced so much great art for us to listen to and enjoy, but still, yeah.
So it's interesting how you speak about the music. You sound like you're a fan of classical music. I'm just curious, who's your favorite artist? And is that what really sparked the interest in doing this? Wow. If you can't pick one, you can pick two. I'll be nice.
You have to tell me, I can pick two from each particular genre within every art. So, okay. It's very difficult to say. But I can sing classical music if you want. Can you? So it's like, my favorite two that I will always go to when I really, need to listen to music. I would go to Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, and Beethoven, of course. So these are like within classical music, they're like the first go-to people. And then there's a whole huge world of incredible composers. But what was the first part of the thing about the music, about being a fan, about?
Well, it just, the way you speak of it, you seem like such a fan. And the movie itself almost seems like a love letter to the work that's put in by the artists and musicians, and that shows through the film.
Thank you.
So I was just wondering, was that intentional, or was that just a byproduct of it?
It's a byproduct of it. When you love something so much and you give yourself to it, then it becomes like a love letter, like homage to something. And I think that's hopefully what's happening in the movie.
Now, something interesting I noticed in the film, it's set in present-day New York, which is one of the busiest cities in the world. But it's interesting because there's no trace of contemporary present music in the entire film. And I thought that was interesting. What was the decision behind that?
First of all, for me, Beethoven, Opus 131, some of those movements are like, contemporary music. So, it's like rock and roll. So in that respect, it's contemporary. But there's only one piece when Alexandra, played by Imogen Poots, is dancing. It's actually something that was written a year ago in Brooklyn. So I chose that because she's sort of a hipster. She dances to contemporary music. So I went to a friend of mine who actually writes music, and he just like gave me that track. So that's what we went with. But otherwise, yes, I focused on that music because when you describe a world, you're into that world, and you live in that world, and I try to focus, and more focus than just like opening up to other music types. So I focus on that. But there is flamenco. There's one opera piece, but it's true. It's from sort of 1930s. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, as important of a role as music plays, the focus really is, like you said earlier, about the musicians and their relationships. So can you share a bit more about the dynamic you wanted to show through these characters?
I'll just say it in abstract way because, it's for you to get whatever you get out of it. I'll just say that I try to contemplate on sort of iconic relationships, like sort of a father-daughter or a mother-daughter or two brothers. They're not brothers really, but they're brothers in terms of, a dynamic of like 25 years together, more like-minded, sort of same age. So we have that like Cain and Abel, and we have that like a father figure like Adam and Eve, that's a husband and wife. So that's what I went after. Sort of iconic relationship, almost biblical relationships, and see how they can evolve and the problems they have. So that's one thing. The second thing is the main theme, which is, long-term relationships and how they go out of tune and how they're bound to go out of tune. It's, in my age, it's more natural to know. You will learn that it doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want, but relationships being like more than one person, even one person fights with himself all the time. So, for two, it's going out of tune. And the question is, what do you do then? What do you do with that? How do you bring it back, if at all, or you separate?
And it's actually interesting you use the term out of tune because it almost seems like the instruments that these characters play become a metaphor for themselves or an extension of themselves. So can you speak a bit on that and what that meant?
Yeah, the piece that I chose as a centerpiece, music centerpiece for the movie is Opus 131. And what's special about this piece is that it's played without a pause. Like Beethoven indicated, that's played without a pause. And usually in classical music, every movement, which is like a chapter in the music, you stop, you tune, there's a couple of facial expressions, they tell each other some stuff, whatever, and then you sort of start again. The next movement, you continue, but it's actually also a restart. And Beethoven says you're not allowed to do that. What does it mean? It means that you go out of tune, really, because the instrument go out of tune. You're in a concert hall. It's hot. You have lights, sometimes pointing at the musicians and the people, the audience. Sometimes it's like 1,000 people. All the heat that is projected. But anyway, it goes out of tune, and each one in a completely different way. So that sort of lends itself beautifully to the relationship story.
And speaking of about the cast. You have an incredible cast, really strong actors. Did you have any of them in mind to play specific parts, or how did that come about?
I went for unknown actors, first timers, and Christopher Walken. It's a discovery, and Joe King. When you envision the cast, you envision who might sort of portray the role in the most fascinating and interesting way, and it takes time until you sort of realize who that person is, and that person also chooses the script and chooses the film and the story. So it took time. The casting process is a process by itself of finding the character with the role, to be right fit for both for the movie and also among themselves. There has to be that chemistry that produces the realness and authenticity of the movie. And so yeah, I had a few of them in mind, and others were incredible surprises, positive surprises. Mark Ivanier, for example. I didn't know that he is the perfect Daniel Lerner, first violinist, perfectionist, loner. And it just came about, and yeah.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us. I had a blast. I hope you had a good time. Did you have a good time?
Of course I had a good time.
Hey.
Yeah.
3 for 3. Well, thank you for joining us. Everybody be sure to check out A Late Quartet. And we are November 9th. November 9th. Check it out. It's going to be a good one. And we will see you next time.